It is huge, to live under the light of someone as big as Elvis. It's a big responsibility.
Riley Keough just dropped the bombshell that nobody saw coming. And it's about to tear apart everything you thought you knew about the Presley family dynasty. In a devastating new Vanity Fair interview, Elvis's granddaughter finally broke her silence about the explosive family war that erupted after her mother, Lisa Marie Presley's death. And what she revealed will make your blood boil. If your mother dies unexpectedly, you're grieving, trying to hold your family together, and then your own grandmother, the woman who's supposed to love and protect you, stabs you in the back by challenging your rightful inheritance in court. That's exactly what happened to Riley Keough, and she's done staying quiet about it. Lisa Marie Presley died in January at just 54 years old from bowel obstruction complications. But here's what the media didn't tell you. Her death sent the Presley family into absolute chaos. Riley describes it perfectly. Our heart is broken. Everyone was in a bit of a panic to understand how we move forward. But panic about what exactly? The grief? The loss? No, they were panicking about money, about power, about who would control the massive Presley empire. See, there's a huge business side to the Presley family that most people don't understand. We're not just talking about some family photos and sentimental jewelry here. We're talking about Graceland, the most famous home in America. We're talking about Elvis's entire legacy, his image rights, his estate, millions upon millions of dollars in assets and ongoing revenue streams. And Lisa Marie had made her wishes crystal clear. She wanted Riley to take over everything. Her estate, the business aspects, the whole empire. Riley was named the sole trustee, and legally, that should have been the end of it. A grieving daughter honoring her mother's final wishes while the family comes together to heal. But Priscilla Presley had other plans. While Riley was trying to process her mother's death, while she was dealing with the devastating loss of the woman who gave her life, Priscilla was already plotting her next move. And what she did next is so calculated, so cold-blooded, that it'll make you question everything you thought you knew about Elvis's widow. Priscilla contested the authenticity and validity of Riley's appointment. She basically accused her own granddaughter of fraud. Think about that for a second. Your grandmother, in your darkest hour, decides to drag you through court and publicly question whether you forged legal documents. The woman who should be supporting you instead becomes your biggest enemy. Riley explains the nightmare that followed. It took a minute to understand the details of the situation because it's complicated. Complicated? That's putting it mildly. What Riley's really saying is that while she was mourning her mother, she had to fight tooth and nail just to honor Lisa Marie's dying wishes. But here's where it gets really twisted. Priscilla didn't just challenge Riley in private family meetings. She made this a public spectacle. Court documents, legal battles, media coverage. She turned her granddaughter's grief into a circus. And why? Because as Riley puts it, there's a huge business side to their family, and Priscilla wanted her piece of the pie. The woman who spent decades positioning herself as the keeper of Elvis's legacy, the devoted widow protecting his memory, showed her true colors the moment real money was on the line. She was willing to destroy her own family to get control of the Presley empire. And the most infuriating part? Priscilla tried to spin this whole thing like she was the victim, like she was just looking out for the family's best interests. But Riley saw right through it. The court saw right through it too. Last week, Riley won the legal battle. Completely. The court recognized what Lisa Marie wanted, and they gave Riley exactly what her mother intended: full control of the estate and all business aspects. Justice was served, but the damage to the family was already done. Because here's what Priscilla didn't count on. Riley isn't the naive young woman she thought she could manipulate. Riley is level-headed, she's smart, and she's much further advanced than anyone gave her credit for. When push came to shove, She didn't just defend herself. She completely dismantled her grandmother's case. Now Riley owns it all. Graceland, the legacy, the business empire. It's all hers. And Priscilla? She's left scrambling to repair a relationship she destroyed through her own greed and desperation. But what Riley said next about her grandmother's true motives will leave you speechless. The gloves came off when Priscilla made her move, and Riley's response was absolutely savage. When Priscilla contested Riley's appointment as trustee, she wasn't just questioning some paperwork. She was essentially calling her own granddaughter a liar and a fraud in front of the entire world. The legal challenge centered around the authenticity and validity of Riley's role, which is lawyer speak for, "We think you're making this up." But here's the thing that makes this betrayal even more disgusting: the timing. Lisa Marie had just died. Riley was dealing with the most devastating loss of her life. And instead of getting support from her grandmother, she got served with legal papers. Instead of a shoulder to cry on, she got accusations and court dates. Riley's own words paint the picture of absolute chaos. Everyone was in a bit of a panic to understand how we move forward. But that panic wasn't just about grief. It was about survival. Because when you're part of the Presley dynasty, grief is a luxury you can't afford when there are vultures circling your inheritance. And make no mistake, Priscilla was the biggest vulture of all. See, what most people don't understand is the psychological warfare that was happening behind the scenes. This wasn't just about money. This was about legacy, about power, about who gets to control the Elvis empire for the next generation. Priscilla has spent her entire adult life being Elvis's widow. That's her identity, her claim to fame, her source of income and influence. But now, Riley was being handed the keys to the kingdom, and Priscilla couldn't stand it. The legal dispute that followed was brutal. Court documents flying back and forth, lawyers making millions while the family imploded, and through it all, Riley had to prove that her own mother's wishes were legitimate. Think about how insane that is. Having to legally prove that your dead mother actually wanted you to inherit her estate. But here's where Riley showed just how steel-spined she really is. Instead of crumbling under the pressure, instead of giving in to keep the peace, she fought back with everything she had. She didn't just defend herself, she went on the offensive. Because Riley understood something that Priscilla clearly didn't. This wasn't just about honoring Lisa Marie's wishes. This was about protecting the entire Presley legacy from someone who was willing to tear the family apart for personal gain. And the court proceedings revealed just how desperate Priscilla had become. Here's a woman who's lived her entire life in the shadow of Elvis, who's built her whole identity around being his widow. And she was watching that power slip away to the next generation. So she did what desperate people do. She lashed out at the person closest to her. The psychological pressure on Riley during this time must have been unimaginable. She's dealing with grief. She's trying to understand complex business arrangements. She's managing a media circus. And she's fighting her own grandmother in court. As Riley puts it, living under the light of someone as big as Elvis is already a big responsibility. Now imagine doing that while your family is actively trying to destroy you. But Riley had something Priscilla didn't count on: the truth. Lisa Marie's intentions were clear. The legal documents were legitimate, and Riley's appointment was rock solid. When push came to shove, the court sided with Lisa Marie's wishes, not Priscilla's desperate power grab. The moment Riley won that legal battle was the moment she transformed from grieving granddaughter into the undisputed head of the Presley empire. She didn't just inherit money and property, she inherited the power to make decisions about Elvis's legacy, about Graceland, about everything that matters to the Presley name.
And Priscilla?
She was left with nothing but damaged relationships and a reputation in tatters. But here's the most savage part of Riley's victory. She didn't gloat. She didn't throw it in Priscilla's face. Instead, she delivered the most devastating blow possible. She told the truth. Riley's response to winning was simple. Clarity has been had. Translation: the games are over, the truth is out, and I'm in charge now. She even had the grace to say that things with her grandmother will be happy and that they've never not been happy. But don't mistake that for weakness. That's power move psychology 101. When you've completely destroyed your opponent, you can afford to be gracious about it. Because Riley understood what this fight was really about, and it had nothing to do with protecting the family legacy. The most twisted part of this family feud? It's literally about where dead bodies get buried. While the world was focused on the money and the estate drama, there was an even more disturbing battle happening behind the scenes. Priscilla wasn't just fighting for control of Elvis's business empire. She was fighting for the right to be buried next to him. And she was willing to use that as leverage against her own granddaughter. Let me paint you the picture of just how sick this gets. Graceland has a meditation garden where the Presley family is laid to rest. Elvis is buried there between his grandmother and his father. Lisa Marie is buried there. Riley's brother Benjamin, who tragically died by suicide in 2020 at just 27 years old, is also buried in that sacred space. It's supposed to be a place of peace, of eternal rest, of family unity even in death. But Priscilla turned it into a bargaining chip. According to reports, Priscilla's future burial site had become a major point of contention in the legal negotiations. She specifically requested to be buried next to Elvis, her ex-husband, remember, not even her current husband. And she was using this demand as part of her legal strategy against Riley. Think about the psychological manipulation at work here. Priscilla was essentially saying, "Give me control of the estate, or I'll make your family's final resting place a battleground forever." She was holding the sanctity of Elvis's grave hostage to get what she wanted. The legal documents that came out of this mess are absolutely chilling. They state that Riley will, to the extent of her authority, allow Priscilla to be buried in the garden, and that Priscilla's burial location will be at the location closest to Elvis Presley without moving any existing gravesite. Read between the lines there. Riley had to legally guarantee her grandmother a gravesite just to end this nightmare. She had to put in writing that yes, when you die, we'll bury you near Elvis. Can you imagine having to negotiate your grandmother's burial arrangements while she's actively trying to destroy you in court?
But here's where Riley's true character shines through, and it's devastating. When asked about the burial controversy, her response was ice cold. "I don't know why she wouldn't be buried at Graceland if she wants to be. Of course." Of course. Two words that absolutely destroyed Priscilla's entire narrative. Because what Riley's really saying is, "I never would have stopped you from being buried there. This was never about the gravesite. You created this drama. You turned our family's resting place into a legal weapon. And for what?" The beautiful irony is that Riley revealed something that makes Priscilla look even worse. Sharing Graceland with the world, opening it up as a tourist destination. That was Priscilla's idea from the start. She's the one who commercialized Elvis's memory, who turned his home into a business, and now she was fighting her own granddaughter over where she'd be buried in the empire she helped create. But the deeper psychology here is what's really disturbing. Priscilla's desperation to be buried next to Elvis reveals everything about her motivations. She's not just Elvis's widow. She's a woman who's built her entire identity around a man who died almost 50 years ago. And she was so terrified of losing that connection, so afraid of being forgotten, that she was willing to traumatize her own family to secure her place in Elvis history. The meditation garden represents something sacred, family, legacy, eternal peace, but Priscilla weaponized it. She turned the final resting place of Riley's mother, brother, and great-grandfather into a legal negotiation point. She made Riley fight for the right to protect her own family's graves.
And the most twisted part? Even after all this, Riley still granted her request. Even after the betrayal, the court battles, the psychological warfare, Riley still said yes to letting Priscilla be buried near Elvis. That's not weakness. That's the ultimate power move. Because Riley understood that this burial dispute exposed the true nature of their relationship and what this whole fight was really about. Riley didn't just win the legal battle. She delivered a masterclass in family destruction. Here's the thing that makes Riley's victory so devastating. She didn't just beat Priscilla in court. She exposed her grandmother's true nature to the entire world, and she did it with surgical precision. When Riley finally broke her silence in that Vanity Fair interview, every single word was calculated to destroy Priscilla's carefully crafted public image. Riley's statement that anything that would suggest otherwise in the press makes me sad because at the end of the day, all she wants is to love and protect Graceland and the Presley family, and the legacy sounds supportive on the surface. But it's actually the most savage takedown you've ever heard. What Riley's really saying is, my grandmother created this entire mess, dragged our family through hell, traumatized me during my grief, and now she's trying to rewrite history by claiming she was protecting us all along. That's psychological warfare at its finest. Because Riley understood something crucial that Priscilla didn't. In the modern world, public perception is everything. Priscilla had been playing the victim card, trying to convince the media that there was no family rift, that everything was fine, that she was just looking out for everyone's best interests. But Riley's response completely destroyed that narrative. She didn't attack Priscilla directly. She didn't need to. She just told the truth, and the truth was damning enough. Riley revealed that the whole legal battle happened because everyone was in a bit of a panic after Lisa Marie's death. She exposed how Priscilla contested the estate documents. She showed the world exactly what kind of person fights their own grieving granddaughter in court over money and power. And then, in the most devastating move of all, Riley showed grace. She said things with her grandmother will be happy, and that they've never not been happy. But that grace wasn't weakness. It was the ultimate display of power. Because when you've completely destroyed someone, when you've exposed their true nature and won everything they were fighting for, you can afford to be magnanimous. Riley's gracious response wasn't forgiveness. It was a victory lap. The transformation Riley underwent during this battle is absolutely stunning. She went from being a grief-stricken daughter who just wanted to honor her mother's wishes to becoming the undisputed empress of the Presley dynasty. She didn't just inherit Graceland. She inherited the power to shape Elvis's legacy for generations to come. And what does this victory really mean? Riley now controls everything. She owns Graceland, she makes the business decisions, she determines how Elvis's image and legacy are used. Every movie deal, every licensing agreement, every decision about what happens to the most famous home in America, it all goes through Riley now. Priscilla spent decades positioning herself as the keeper of Elvis's flame, the protector of his memory. But her own greed and desperation cost her everything. She's now just another family member with no real power, no control, and a reputation permanently damaged by her own actions. The devastating irony is that Priscilla created the very rift she spent months denying existed. She turned a family tragedy into a public spectacle. She transformed her granddaughter's grief into a legal battlefield. And in the end, she got exactly what she deserved. Nothing. But Riley's ultimate power move wasn't winning the legal battle. It wasn't getting control of the estate. It wasn't even exposing Priscilla's true nature to the world. Riley's ultimate power move was showing everyone that she's not just Elvis's granddaughter or Lisa Marie's daughter. She's her own person, with her own strength, her own intelligence, and her own ruthless ability to protect what matters to her. She proved that she's not the naive young woman that Priscilla thought she could manipulate. She's the rightful heir to the Presley throne, and she's more than capable of defending it against anyone, even her own family. Priscilla gambled everything on a power grab and lost it all. Riley didn't just win, she became the undisputed queen of the Presley empire. And that transformation from victim to victor is the most shocking twist in this entire saga. What do you think? Was Riley protecting her mother's wishes? Or did she go too far in this family war? Drop your thoughts below. And if you want more explosive celebrity family drama, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started with the stories Hollywood doesn't want you to know.